class has started, so I'm going to start a little timer for this. What do we want to do? So I think we can do 4 minutes for this warm up, and then that will be good. So 4 minutes here, and then we'll get going. So yeah, just take 4 minutes, and we're just reviewing things that we did from yesterday, right? So these are the 3 things we did yesterday. So there's 4 minutes. So if you're just coming in, we're working on this warm up. We got about 4 minutes to work on it. So again, make sure you guys are just working on this warm up, and then we'll get started with some new stuff and see how you guys are doing. So good morning, guys. Make sure we just come in. We're working on these warm up problems. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go over these. As always, guys, if you have questions, please use the chat to ask questions, or turn on your mic and ask questions. So this is day 2. So day 1, we went over adding, subtracting, and multiplying. Today, we're gonna really focus on factoring and solving. And then hopefully from today, we can figure out what we need to do on Thursday, because Thursday is gonna be day 3, and then Friday is gonna be our exam, okay? So that is just a heads up for what the rest of the week is going to be. So let's go ahead and, oh, gotta take off this, and let's go over what we're doing here. So, oops, it's frozen. So for this first one, it looks like we're adding 2, right? So that middle symbol right here tells us we're going to be adding the 2. So again, I'm going to be looking for like terms, so terms that look alike. Here, and I can zoom in just a little bit here. So I'm looking for 2 terms that look alike. So I have negative 2x squareds here, and I have 1x squared here. So if I add those together, I'm going to get a negative 1x squared. Okay, and then I take a look at my next things that look alike. So I have 3x here, and I have 2x here. So I'm going to take 3x, and I'm going to be adding 2x. So that's 5x. And then I'm looking at the negative 5 and the positive 3. So I'm going to be adding a negative 5 plus 3. So that's going to be negative 2. And if you guys are struggling with the arithmetic, like we're just making arithmetic errors, remember that you can always use either a physical calculator or a calculator on Desmos. Okay, both are perfectly fine there. And again, if as I'm going over the answers, you guys have any questions or you're like, what? Like, what did you just do? Make sure you guys use chat, or if you need to, you can turn on your mic as well. Okay. All right. For the next one, we're going to have, so I'm going to group my x squareds. Okay, but this time, notice the symbol in the middle is a subtraction. So I'm going to have 3x squared, and then I'm going to minus a negative 2. Now, with minuses, I always like to use a calculator because we can make mistakes with negatives, right? So I read left to right, so I get 3 minus a negative 2. Okay, and oops, I'm off the screen there, and I get 5 because minus a negative turns it into adding. So I'm going to be a positive 5 here. So I got 5x squared. And then I'm going to go look at my next group. So I have x's. So I have negative 4 here, and I'm going to minus 1 more. So again, using the calculator is really easy to do. I'm going to take negative 4 minus a positive 1. So I'm going to get negative 5. So I'm going to have minus 5x. And then my last one, I'm going to take a look at my whole numbers. I have negative 2 minus a negative 2. So negative 2 minus a negative 2, I get 0. Okay, and if you have a 0, we don't need to write it, right? Because it's nothing. So if there's nothing, then you can write nothing. Okay, does anybody have questions about that? If you did write the 0 in, it's not the end of the world, right? So if you did go plus 0, it's not a big deal. It's just mathematicians tend to be lazy, and so we don't want to have to do more work than we need to do, right? I bet you guys can relate to that. Okay, so does anybody, now the last class, guys, we had a lot of people were asking questions about this. There was a lot of confusion. How are you guys feeling today about those two? Are we feeling a little better? You guys can go ahead and tell me privately in chat if you would like. But we can wait here until I get responses. It's okay. So I just need to know if you guys are doing okay today. We did 6 of those yesterday, right? So, and it's important to know too, if you guys aren't feeling well, I appreciate everybody giving feedback. Thank you guys. Because we're going to have another day of review on Thursday, and we got to make sure that what we are practicing is things that we need help with. Okay. All right, let's get into multiplying. So when we use multiplying, there's a couple of different ways of doing it, and we didn't have a lot of time this year, so we only did one method. And that method that we did was the box method, because it sets up what we're going to be doing today. Okay, so to use the box method, right, we have a 2 terms here and 2 terms here, so we have a 2 by 2 box. And it doesn't matter where you put the 4x minus 3. You can put it on the top or the side. Okay, so it doesn't matter. All that matters is that we label the sides with our the two things that we're multiplying. So if you put the 4x minus 3 on the top, that's totally fine. Okay. Now notice how we have these 4 smaller areas, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to find the area of each small box. Okay, and we're going to do that just like we would a multiplication square or a, I know in biology what you guys call those, pundit squares? No, now I can't remember the name of them. But in biology, you do this with genetics, right? So in this case, we have 4x times negative x. So the 4 times the negative, that will make it negative 4. And then x times x, that makes it x squared. Okay, and then I have 4 times 5. Well, that's 20. And then we just have 1x. And then I take a look, I have negative x times negative 3. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive. And then I have the x. And then negative 3 times 5 is positive 15. Okay, so that's the first step. I want to go ahead and find the small little area of each box. Then we're going to add all those areas up. So I have negative 4x squared. I have 20x. I have 3x. And I have 15. Notice now, this is why we did adding and subtracting first. Notice if you have terms that look alike, we can combine those, right? So I'm going to end up with negative 4x squared. And then I'm just going to show in blue here when I combine these. 20 plus 3 is 23x. And then I have plus 15. Okay, and there's my answer right there. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, shoot. You're right. I forgot the negative. Negative 3 times 5 is definitely negative 15. So we'll just change that to a negative. Thank you. Sorry about that. Drop the negative there. See, with negatives, it's easy to drop things and make a little mistake, right? So there we go. And yeah. Anybody else have questions about the process of that or how we do that? All right. So I'm not getting any feedback. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with doing some new stuff today. So it seems like you guys are doing okay with adding, subtracting, and multiplying. So today we're really going to focus on factoring and solving. Okay, and then I'm going to split this up. So if you guys are following along in the book, you guys can follow along in your notes. So the first thing we're going to start with is 7.5. And this is factoring trinomials. Remember, tri means 3. Okay, so when I say factoring trinomials, we mean like x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on today. And this is the one that was a little bit complicated, had lots of steps. So we're really going to focus on this, okay? So we're going to do a bunch of examples. And if you guys have questions, please go ahead and ask. But we just got to make sure that our factoring is up on par. So let's do, this is our first example today. So we're going to factor the expression x squared plus 10x plus 16. Okay, so x squared plus 10x plus 16. So yeah, there is an x next to the b right here. So the b just represents the number in front of the x. So we never factored anything with a number here. So normally this would be an a, but in our class, we're not factoring anything that has an a value that's not 1. So this is x squared plus bx plus c, where b and c are numbers. But in our class, we aren't going to deal with anything where the a is anything but 1. So that's what's going on there. When you guys get to algebra 2, you guys will be. Okay, so to do this, now if you take a look up here, right? So notice how here, right, we had two factors and then we multiplied to get a trinomial. So we're doing this backwards, right? So, and that's what makes this difficult, is because we have to do things backwards. So the box is still here, but now we're working backwards, okay? And to do things backwards, we notice some patterns, right? We notice that in the upper left is our squared term. In the lower right is our constant term, right? And then we're like, okay, well then I'm gonna do a little mini game because we have to figure out what goes here and here, right? That's the tricky part. So multiplication on top, addition on the bottom. So if I multiply these two numbers, so 16 and x squared, that's going to be my product. And you can see this, that would be a little bit more difficult, right, if we had a number in front of the x squared, right? But we don't have a number in front of the x squared, so it feels kind of silly now. I'm glad that you're here. And then the linear term is right down here. Okay, so I have 16x squared, and I have the 10x down the bottom. So now I'm looking for numbers that multiply to get 16. So numbers that multiply to get 16 are like 16 and 1 is always the easy one, right? Because anything times 1 is itself. What else do we have for 16? Yeah, 8 times 2, that's a good one. Okay, and I think there should be 3 goes in there, doesn't it? Nope, 3 doesn't go in there. All right. No, it doesn't. Okay, 16, is there anything else? What about 4? 4 go into 16? Well, 3 times, here we go. 4 times 4, yeah? Three times 5 is 15, right? So I think 3 times 6 would be 18. Okay, and I think this is it. I think this is it. So then we're looking for, so they have to multiply to get 16, and then they're gonna have to add. So if we add them up, what would they add up to? So 16 plus 1 is 17. 8 plus 2 is 10. 4 plus 4 is 8. Well, we want it to add up to 10. So we got a winner, right? So to write these in, I'm going to have 8 and 2. And then I just have to make sure to add in the x, right? So I have 8x and 2x, and this is where we can double check everything. 8x times 2x is 16x squared, and 8x plus 2x is 10x, okay? So once we have these, we're going to put them into our box. It doesn't matter which one you put it in. Again, order doesn't matter. So I'm just going to go 8x and 2x. Okay. And then we filled in our box. So now we're going to do the factoring bit. Okay. So for the factoring bit of this, we just want to look at the top row. Okay. Now, lucky for us, we're not doing anything where there's going to be a number here, right? So almost always, we're just going to be pulling out an x. Right? So, which makes it really easy for us, okay? We don't have to do a lot of thinking. So once we pull out that x, then we're just kind of reverse multiplying. So we have to think x times what gives me x squared? Well, x times x gives me x squared. And then I think, okay, x times what gives me 2x? Well, x times a positive 2 would give me 2x. And then I think, okay, x times what gives me 8x? Well, a positive 8 would give me that. And then we double check. 2 times 8 equals 16. It sure does. So I can say my factors then, and it doesn't matter the order, is this. X plus 8 times x plus 2. Okay. So let's take a second to pause. And if you guys have questions that you guys can go ahead and ask. Let me know. How are we doing, guys? Is there anything I can do to help? Wow, you guys don't have any questions? You guys are like, crap, we could be taking the midterm today. You guys are sounding a lot more confident than you were yesterday. Hey, and I'm not gonna knock it if you guys are feeling good about this. This is really, I'm really proud of you guys. Like, look at this, guys. Like, you can do this. We've come a long ways. This is quite hard. Okay, yeah, keep writing it down. We're gonna do another example. I'm gonna have you guys do the next one on your own. So we're gonna do a little bit to see, like, hey, where are you guys getting stuck? How can we get unstuck? Stuff like that. Okay. All right. So I know some of us are still writing down this last one. For those that aren't, we can get started on this next one. So this next one, guys, we're going to do this one on your own. Okay. So let's try this one on our own. We're going to factor. We're going to factor x squared minus 8x plus 12. Okay, and then I'm going to give you guys, I think 3 minutes is a good amount of time to do this. Some people will finish early, that's okay. So we're just going to take 3 minutes to try out this second one. And yeah, and if you guys need more help, then I am absolutely here. Okay, so I know some of you are like, Kraft, I need more help. Then I'm here, I'll help you guys out. So if you need help, guys, you can chat me in chat, or you can turn on your mic and ask questions too. That's a great question. Let you in. Yeah, that looks good. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. And again, if you guys have questions, please ask them. I want to be able to help you out and do that, okay? So we start with the box. So we're going to take this and we're going to put our squared term in the upper right.
we're going to put our constant term in the bottom left. Okay. And then we're going to draw our little x thing here. We're going to put multiplication on the top. We're going to put addition on the bottom.
So to get multiplication, we're going to multiply. So I'm going to go ahead and take
12 times x squared. So I get 12x squared.
And then I'm going to take my linear term, which is negative 8x.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think of
Things that multiply to get 12x.
So I got 12 and 1.
What else do we got, guys? 12 and 1. And there's a couple, right?
Yeah, 6 and 2. There's one more I can think of.
What's the other one?
So the other one is 3 and 4. 4 and 3, yeah. Well done, well done.
Okay. All right, now, the problem
Here, right, is when we go to add. Well, when we go to add,
we have to add up to a negative number. And it's like, what? Positives aren't going to add up to a negative number. So that means one of, right? So then we have to think, well, if we made one of these negative, then when we multiply them, it would be negative, right?
So it turns out both of these are going to have to be negative. Right?
It's the only way that we can make it work. If one of them was negative, we couldn't multiply to get a positive number, right? So both of these are going to have to be negative.
So if we add up these two negatives, I'm going to get negative 13. This one would be negative 8. And then this one would be negative 7.
Okay.
So which one did we want here? We want
the one that adds up to negative 8.
So it looks like my two numbers are going to be negative 6x and negative 2x.
Okay. Were you guys able to follow my reasoning for why these would both be negative, right? Because they have to multiply to get a positive, which means they either are both positive or both negative, and then they have to add up to a negative. So that's why we threw in those negatives. So again, if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, so then going here, I have negative 6x and negative 2x. It doesn't matter where I put them. Doesn't matter where I put them. I'll use a different color to switch things up when I'm factoring. So I'm going to cover up the bottom. And again, since our class, we're not dealing with anything that has an a in it, it's almost always just going to be an x. Okay, because we're not dealing with anything that has an a term here. So I say, okay, what times x gives me x squared? That's x. What times x gives me negative 2x? That's negative 2. On the bottom here, I say, what times x gives me negative 6x? That's negative 6. And then let's double check. Negative 2 times negative 6 equals 12.
We're good to go. So my answer is x minus 2 and x minus 6.
Okay. Does anybody have questions or comments that they want to share? Yeah, we'll do more. So we're gonna do more of these for sure. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. So let's do some more. Okay. All right. So let's do example number. Oh shoot! What example were we on? Is this 3? 3. All right. So example 3. So we're going to factor x squared plus 4x minus 21. Okay. And hey guys, was that enough time last time? Do you guys want more time, less time? So I did, I think I did 3 minutes last time. Was that enough time? Okay.
Well, there we go. I'll zoom in just a little bit.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got.
And see if you guys have any questions.
So I would start by drawing a box, right? Because this is a trinomial. So I'm going to go ahead and, and I'll get my x while I'm here. So I'm going to put my squared term in the upper left. I'm going to put my constant term in the lower right. Okay. I'm going to multiply those to get my product. And for my sum, I'm going to write down here 4x. So now I'm looking for numbers that multiply to 21. So I have 21 and 1. What else do we have?
Right, so 21, isn't that 7 and 3?
Okay. Is there anything else that multiplies to get that? I don't think so. I think it's 21 and 1 and 7 and 3. Yeah, so that's a great point. So they're gonna have to multiply to get negative. So the only way to multiply to get negative is one of them has to be negative, right? So then I look at, well, they're going to add. So see how they're going to add up to be a positive? That tells me the bigger number has to be positive. So it's either going to be 21 times -1 or 7 times -3. So let's see what those add up to, right? So 21 minus 1, that's 20. And 7 minus 3, that is 4. So this is what we're looking for right there. So notice again, right, the bigger number has to be positive, because if I made 7 negative, then I would have a -4. Okay, so you can see which number is going to be positive or negative by looking at your sum. And whatever sign that is, that's what the bigger number is.
So I'm going to have 7x, and I'm going to have negative 3x.
Let's take a look. So 7x times negative 3x equals negative 21x squared, and 7x plus negative 3x is 4x.
So I'm going to go ahead and add these into my box. Then I'm going to pull out, right? Gosh, not having that a be there makes these really easy, right? It's almost always just an x here, right? Because that's what these two have in common. And then x times x gives me x squared, right? And then negative 3 times x gives me negative 3x. And then 7, and negative 3 times 7 is 21. So I can say x minus 3 and x plus 7. It doesn't matter the order of this last one right here. And that's my answer. And how are we doing, guys? Are we feeling a little bit better? We're going to go ahead and... so we do have some other stuff we have to get to today as well. Do we need to do one more example, or should we move on to the next? Okay, so looking at responses, something that we could do here is we can move on to the next one. And then tomorrow not tomorrow. We don't have class tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. We just have advisory tomorrow. Thursday, we'll come back and we'll cycle through these again. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one.
And then again, we're going to come back to this on Thursday. And remember, if you guys are like, man, I need a lot of practice with this, I also have office hours every morning from 8:30 to 10. So you guys can always come join me then. All right, so the last thing that's going to be on this midterm exam is solving using zero product property. Okay, or I call it ZPP. Okay, zero product property. So let's take a look at a couple examples of the zero product property. So zero product property, and I just want to remind people of this, says that if you have two or more, it can always be more. So if you have two or more things that multiply to get zero, the only way that we can multiply to get zero is either one of those terms has to be zero. Okay, so it could be 3 terms, it could be 4 terms, right? It doesn't matter how many things you do multiply, one of them has to be 0. So in this case, either the A has to be 0 or the
B has to be 0. This is the zero product property. Okay.
So let's do one example together, and then I'll have you guys try some on your own. Okay. So let's call this example, we're going to call it example 1 because we're in a new section. So let's say we're going to solve, and then we have x minus 3, so the quantity of x minus 3 times the quantity of x minus 9.
Okay.
So in this example, I have 2 factors, right? We could multiply these out to get a trinomial. But as we can tell here, I have one thing times another thing equal to 0. That is the zero product property. So what zero product property tells us then, okay, if I have 2 things multiplying to 0,
then either the first one must equal 0 or the second one must equal 0.
Okay. So basically here, that means we're going to have 2 possible solutions.
Okay.
So I'm going to look at the first one.
I'm going to say, okay, well, x minus 3 equals 0. So if I want to solve for x, I'm going to do the opposite of minus. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides.
Okay, so the 3's cancel out on the left.
So I get x equals 3. And then over here on the right, I'm going to go, okay, x plus 9. I'm going to add 9 to both sides, and so I get x equals 9. So I have two possible solutions, right?
If I plug in a 3, right? 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 times 3 minus 9 is going to be 0. And then I have 9 minus 9 is 0, so whatever 9 minus 3 times 0 is still going to be 0. Okay? So that's it. I have those two answers. So the zero product property is just when you're multiplying things, and that's all you have. All you have is multiplication, and it set it equal to 0, then one or both have to be 0. Okay. Now, does anybody have questions about that? I feel like this one is a bit easier than the factoring one, right? Because there's less going on. So I'm going to have you guys try a couple of these, okay? I'm going to have you guys try a couple of these and see how we're doing. Okay. So we're going to solve, and we're going to have a couple of problems here. So the first one is going to be 2x times the quantity of x minus 4 equals 0. And the second one is going to be the quantity of x plus 5 times the quantity of x minus 4 equals 0. Okay, so I want you to solve both of those, and I can leave that other example up. There we go. Let's see how much time I can give you. I can give you, I only think this will take 2 minutes. So let's see what happens there if we do 2 minutes. All right, so let's take a look at these and see what we got. And then after this, we're going to try this again, but we're going to just increase the difficulty just a little bit, okay? All right, and again, if you guys have questions, please ask, because that's what this is all about, okay? So in this case right here, again, we're going to have two things that are multiplying to get 0. So this is how you identify zero product property, right? So you look, okay, I only have multiplication, and they equal 0. So this means that 2x is going to equal 0, or x minus 4 is going to equal 0. So to do this, I got to get rid of the 2, so I'm going to divide both by 2. Well, 0 divided by anything is going to be 0, so x equals 0 is one of my answers. And then over here, I have minus 4, so I'm going to undo that. And I get x equals positive 4, so those are two of my answers right there. Boom, boom. X equals 0, x equals 4. And that's it for that.
And then for this one, again, we have a times b equals 0. So I'm going to have, okay, x, plus, that doesn't look like a plus 5 equals 0, or x minus 4 equals 0.
So I'm just setting them both equal to 0.
And then I do the opposite. So I'm subtracting 5. So I get x equals negative 5. And then I'm adding the 4. So I get x equals positive 4. So those are the two answers here.
Okay. So again, this makes the factoring look a lot more complicated, but you guys are doing well on both of these. I'm really excited for this midterm, guys. I'm really excited. So I'm going to go ahead now and just ask if you guys have any questions. If not, then we're going to practice a couple of more that maybe are a little bit more difficult, but then we'll make a plan for what we'll do after that. Okay? So does anybody have questions on these? All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we'll do for our next example. I'm going to have to get more paper here. All right, so let's try a couple more. So this is example 3. Because I think we've done 3 examples for every section at least. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to throw some curveballs at you and see if you guys can do these, okay? So we're going to solve, and here's the first one. So this one's just going to have a little bit more algebra in it. And then the second one. Okay, so those are the 2. Oop, I gotta set that equal to 0 though, don't I? So let's try this and see what we can get. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and take a look at these and see what we could get. Okay, so for this first one, I'm going to notice that I have 2 terms multiplying to equal 0. So that's going to mean that 2x plus 7 equals 0, and 2x minus 7 equals 0. Okay, So to solve these, remember, we always undo addition and subtraction first. So in looking at these, I'm going to deal with the 7s first. So in this case, it's a positive 7, so I'm going to subtract 7. So I get 2x equals negative 7, and then I'm going to divide by 2. So I get x equals negative 7 halves. Okay, so there's one of my answers. And it's okay to have it as a fraction. Remember, fractions are just our way of saying, like, hey, I don't want to do that division. Okay. And then over here, the opposite of minus 7 is plus 7. Okay, again, always starting with the addition and subtraction first. So 2x equals 7. And then I'm going to divide by 2. And I get x equals positive 7 halves. Okay, and that's going to be my answers for that one. Okay, and again, fractions are okay. They're just us being lazy and not wanting to do the division. Okay. Now, technically speaking, the second one, we don't have to use zero product property here, but I just wanted to show you guys to remember what squared means. Squared means times itself. So this is really x plus 6 times the quantity of x plus 6, right? So we do have an a and a b, right? So we have x plus 6 equals 0, or x plus 6 equals 0. If I solve these, opposite of plus 6 is minus 6. So we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. So I get x equals negative 6, or x equals negative 6. Now, because they're the same number, right? Because they're the same, we only have to write it once, right? We only have to write it once. It's just one answer, x equals negative 6. As you guys go further in math, this is called a repeat answer, where the answer is repeated, so we just list it once. Okay? Now, repeated answers are going to be really cool when we're graphing things, because they're going to have implications for when we're graphing. So it turns out that in a quadratic like this is, when you try to graph it and it has a repeat, that's when it, quote, kisses the x-axis. Ooh, right? Put that on Twitter, right? Quadratics making out with the x-axis. So, but, right, we can have a little fun in math. So that's what's going on there. It is kind of cool later on, though right now it's just kind of like, oh, I only have one answer. Okay? So just checking in, we're out at 11:25. It is 11:23. I do want to check in just really quickly. How are you guys doing? How are we feeling? And for my homies who are at school, are you guys doing good? Is there anything you guys need at school? Is there anything that you guys need? Any questions? I just want to make sure it's not 55 minutes of so school's going well. I just want to make sure I'm really excited that you guys are able to go back. Good. Okay. And then I think you guys are in the cafeteria right now. I think that's where you okay. And that's going well. You guys are doing okay? Okay, good. I'm just getting a whole bunch of yeah. Good. You guys are awesome. Okay, so just a reminder what our plan is for the rest of this week. Tomorrow, we do not meet, okay? But at this exact time, so from 10:30 to 11:20 tomorrow is advisory. So you guys are going to meet with your advisory teachers at this time. But nothing's on campus. So if you're coming to school now, everyone's going to be remote tomorrow. So everyone signs in remote. Your advisory class is going to be from 10:30 to 11:20. So 10:30, that's the same time this class starts. So 10:30, so it goes from 10:30 to 11:20. So for some weird reason, it's 5 minutes shorter than what we're doing today. Okay? All right. Hey, and unless you guys have any other quick questions, I'm going to end class so I can get to my next class, and so you guys can get to your next class because we only have 5 minutes. So if you need to get up, use the bathroom, and stretch, go ahead and do that. If not, take care, everyone. I will see you guys Thursday. Bye.